honor to stand here with not just elected leaders, but perhaps more importantly, with some of the dedicated volunteers who collected more than 12,000 signatures to get Mayor Pete Buttigieg on the ballot here in Virginia. And one point of distinction, besides the fact that we're getting more than twice the number required, is that we're the first presidential campaign to file to get on the March 3rd ballot in Virginia. And like many of you, I've been following Mayor Pete's career for years, and I know that this is a grassroots movement that's going to propel him to victory. And that means victory in Iowa, victory in New Hampshire, victory in Virginia, and victory in November 2020. Now, like a lot of us, or probably all of us, I'm supporting Mayor Pete because we have to look forward, not back, after this disaster in the White House. And to me, that means a president who's going to unify us and bring this nation closer together. We face rapid challenges in these times, and those include the climate crisis, automation, monopolies and the wage gap, as well as soaring health care and education costs. Mayor Buttigieg will be the strong president we need to address reproductive freedom, gun violence prevention, criminal justice reform, as well as equity and equality for every American. Now, I'm here in support of a generational talent who can reunite America, re-inspire America, and restore America's standing as a global leader. On November 5th, this past November 5th, we changed the course of the Commonwealth. And today, I'm ready to change the course of this country. Are you? Yes! So let's get our sleeves rolled up and get back to work. Now, before we get back to work, we've got some people who are going to address us. And the first one is going to be former Congressman Glenn Nye.
Thanks, Adam. All right. Well, look, I'm very proud to be with you all here today. There's some great things happening in Virginia right now, so we are very excited. Let's keep the momentum going. But as all of you know very well, it's time for a renewal in this country. And I think we are all here for a unified reason, and that is that we feel very strongly that we need a fresh start. Do y'all think we need a fresh start in America? Yeah. And I think Mayor Pete is the one to get us there. Now, I had the opportunity to meet Mayor Pete a couple of years ago and talk to him while he was focusing on his duties as mayor. And a couple of things struck me about Pete. Though on the young side, I was really impressed with his combination of experiences. Having served in uniform in the Naval Reserve in Afghanistan and serving as an elected official, an executive, as a mayor of a town in America, he has a really awesome set of experiences. In addition to that, he does have some business experience, but he also pairs that business experience with a dedication to public service. Wouldn't it be great to have a president who uses his experience for the good of the country? So I'm excited about Pete. Look, as a former member of the House Armed Services Committee and a representative of a military community, I am deeply appreciative of Mayor Pete's commitment to military families and veterans and those who serve. And as a former Foreign Service officer, I'm also really proud that Pete has stood up for those career Foreign Service professionals who dedicate their lives to serving this country. We really appreciate that, and we need someone like him leading our country right now. Now, as a former member of Congress, I am very sympathetic to the sense in this country that things aren't going great in Washington. I know my colleague Don Beyer will agree with me. There's a deep sense in this country that due to actions on the part of some partisan insiders that things aren't going great and things need to be really changed in Washington. Our current president ran on the strength of that complaint. Unfortunately, he's just made it worse. We need to start over. We really need this fresh start. And I strongly believe that Mayor Pete's the one to get us there. In addition to having served himself, I'm deeply proud of his commitment to making a new call for national service, because it is high time that we as Americans are led in a direction that allows us to unify, to come together and really have a shared sense of success for the country and shared prosperity as Americans. We deeply need that right now, and I believe that Mayor Pete is the one to do that for us. So I'm ready for a fresh start. I know you all are. We're ready for a renewal in this country, And I am looking forward to working together with all of you to put Mayor Pete over the top in Virginia on Super Tuesday. So let's get it done. To my good friend and colleague, Councilwoman Andrew McClellan.
I wore my coat of many colors because I think that really represents who Pete is and the coalition of his grassroots supporters who are here today as well. I'm Andrea McClellan. I serve on the Norfolk City Council, and in that capacity, I've had the opportunity to get to know Pete Buttigieg for the last 3 years through a group called New Deal Leaders that Delegate Keem and I are involved with. And I will tell you that for those 3 years, what you see now is what I've seen for 3 years. One of the most intelligent men I've ever met, funniest guys I've ever met, and the guy who walks into the room and everybody stops to listen to him because he's thoughtful, he's civil, he knows what he's talking about. And as a mayor, he's practical and he's pragmatic and he knows how to get things done. And I know what that's like in Norfolk, Virginia, for example. And Norfolk, by the way, which is second only to New Orleans in terms of flood risk, we are facing climate crisis. It's not a future issue, it is a now issue. My streets where I live were flooded all weekend long. We had cars that were flooded out all weekend long, and half the time it was sunny outside. The climate crisis is real. Pete is addressing that, and not only is he addressing it, he's also looking at it with an eye to the future for jobs and green jobs. And so he gets that practical side. So I couldn't be more excited to support Pete, and I am so thrilled. And I want November to be here now because I want civility. I want that nice guy. I want the guy who can get things done and who will bring the respect of America that we deserve around the world back to the White House. So thank you all for all of your work. I'm so happy to be here today, and I'm going to hand it off to my good friend, Mark Keem, delegate.
First of all, I want to welcome you to the People's Capital. This Richmond and the Capitol Square that you are here is your building and your headquarters here. So I want to welcome you all for being here. I have an amazing honor of working in that building, and my office is across the street there along with Adam Evan. And so we're so proud to have citizens come and visit us here. Now, the House of Delegates that I serve in is a very historic institution. This year, just a couple of months ago, we celebrated the 400th anniversary of the founding of the Virginia House of Delegates, which started out as the House of Burgesses. It is the oldest continuous legislative body in the modern world, meaning for 400 years, during the darkest days of our country as well as the brightest days, we have kept it going. So the idea of democracy was founded here, right here in Richmond, Virginia, and we still practice it every single day. But during that time of the 400 years, we know that we weren't the same country as we started out. We started out as a colony of another nation. So somewhere along the way, about 150 years into that experience, people said, this isn't right. We don't have the freedom that we deserve as individuals. We don't have the security when our military is overseas. And we certainly don't have democracy when we can't vote for our kings. And so, in the spirit of finding freedom and security and democracy for all Americans, a group of young men and women rose up and said they demanded something different. So the country turned to a young, 33-year-old, pretty articulate, intelligent young man who came here and drafted a document called the Declaration of Independence. And about 10 years into that experience of waging a war, we beat the tyranny. But people said it wasn't enough to just win the tyranny. We need to win the era. So when they thought about how we create a new country that represents what we believe in, they turned to another young person from Virginia, a 37-year-old young man named James Madison. And he penned one of the greatest document and the blueprint that this country's ever seen and this world has ever seen, the U.S. Constitution. And that Constitution promises you and I the ability to come together just like what we're doing now to support the people that we want because we believe in a peaceful transition of government. That's what we're about to do. Now, so why are we all here? Because as part of that exercise of democracy, part of our effort to win this era out of the darkness that we have into the light, we need another young person to come to Virginia, inspire us with his vision to set us to the right course. And that young man happens to be a good friend of mine named Pete Buttigieg. I've had the honor of getting to know Pete right after he was elected to his first term as mayor of South Bend. We were part of a network. We spent many years together working on some policy issues together. And when he decided to run for the U.S. president, I told him, how do I sign up? And so I was honored that I was one of the first people to be able to sign up for his campaign. And as a result, we have now, you see around here, I believe we're the only campaign in Virginia of all of our great friends that are running for president this year that has the elected and former elected officials of every level of government, federal, state, and local, representing all parts of our Commonwealth. And so I'm so proud to be here with all my friends because not only are we going to win this year, with Iowa and New Hampshire and the other early states, but when it comes to Virginia, we're going to be in a better position than anybody else to win on March 3rd. So we are ready to win. Are you ready to win? Yeah! We're ready to win. I need you to listen to a friend of mine who actually represents the hometown of both Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. The former mayor and the current council member from Charlottesville, Virginia, Mike Signer.
Well, this is incredible. It's really an honor to be here with this is a very illustrious group of elected officials. Just to add a couple of thoughts, I know everybody here is a true believer. As I look out at what's happened in the last 3 years with Trump, I do think there are tens of millions of people who are so sick of politics and of what is happening in our country that they have looked at two options. One is you just tear it all down and you blow up the system. I remember one of the ads that Trump came into office was like the very closing argument television ad he did. He said, "I'm going to go to Washington and turn it upside down." And I think that he did. But so here's the thing about Pete Buttigieg. He also understands people's frustration with a politics and a government that is not serving them, but he has a totally different argument, which is he can go there, and I agree with what Glenn said, he offers a fresh start. My day job right now is I work at a quickly growing technology company with 400 employees, and I see what Pete is doing and this enthusiasm that he's unleashing among tens of millions of people. He is looking at the problem we have today with politics and government and society almost through the eyes of an entrepreneur. There is a problem, there's a set of solutions, and he is talking about refreshing virtually everything about how we serve people through government. And it is incredibly refreshing, that idea of a new start and a new era. And I think you see it with the policy that he's putting out there, this higher education plan that he just announced today. It's visionary, it's bold, it's specific, it's compassionate, it's thoughtful, but it's also pragmatic because he's bringing in the experience of having been a mayor. I just want to say a couple other things about him. I've known him for 15 years. We were met when he was 23 and had all these virtues everybody's talking about, and we were in the founding class of this group called the Truman National Security Project, and we stayed friends, like real friends. Kind of this person that you would trust and talk to when there's really rough times, or would give you a call when you were in statewide, and then when he became mayor, before I became mayor, when I was the mayor of Charlottesville, I reached out to him a couple times for very specific kinds of help. We needed to craft an ID program for very vulnerable immigrants and refugees in our community to feel like they were not in the shadows anymore, and they had done that in South Bend, and he took time out to connect the people we had in Charlottesville who needed to know how to set a program up, and they were like talking to people in South Bend, and we modeled the program that we did, working with churches and nonprofits on his advice on what South Bend did. And in the lead up to the horrific Unite the Right rally, which I would not wish on my worst enemy, he took time out to talk to me, and I reached out to two mayors of the country, and one of them was him, because I thought that he would actually understand and have some guidance and insight into what a civil unrest situation was going to be like, because he had served in Afghanistan, and he did. And just before I turn over to Don Beyer, specifically on extremism, he is one of the only candidates who is talking about domestic terrorism, the danger of violent, radicalized white nationalism in a specific way. He released a really compelling plan about extremism where he talked in detail about where the failures under the Trump administration have been, which I think did make something like Charlottesville possible, the failures at the FBI, the Department of Justice, more resources, a greater plan, and he talked about the role that social media companies have and the really toxic companies that need to be named and shamed, and he was right out there on a limb, and it was great to see him talking about not just the hope that we have to have, but the threats that we really have. So with that, I want to turn over to Don Beyer, and he probably won't say this himself, but he is if you keep on with the theme of tech companies and early investors, he sees these companies that can blow up and become these political causes, unicorns like Obama, and Congressman Beyer was one of the first endorsers of Barack Obama, and he's one of the first most prominent endorsers of Pete Buttigieg, and everything that you're seeing here is possible because people like him had the courage to get out early. So
Thank you.
You've been worded with so much eloquence, so forgive me. But I'm just so pleased that you're here. Thank you very much for being here for Pete. So far all year I've been the only member of Congress to have come out for Pete Buttigieg. And people keep asking me, I just talked to Jim Moran in the car. He's with Pete up by 10 points over the second place in Iowa. And Jim said, what did you know and when did you know it? And all I can say is, well, I'm not, intuitive or that smart. I just wanted the best person to be president of the United States. I wanted somebody who could speak 7 languages, who taught himself Norwegian on the toilet so he could read a novel, who could still play the classical piano after not playing for years, who served in Afghanistan, who managed 1,000 people. So I'm in Congress. I have a really huge staff. I have 10 people. If I were senator, I'd have 30. If I were mayor, I'd have 1,000. And I have the responsibility to clean up the snow and fill the pothole and do the child protective services and all the incredible things that somebody that close to the people has to deal with each and every day. As Pete says so well, the real challenges the next president's going to have to deal with are the ones that are going to hit the millennials the hardest. Climate change, our $20 trillion public debt, all this happening with the social changes in the world, automation, artificial intelligence, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need somebody approaching 80 years old, however wonderful they have been, to lead this as we go forward. A lot of people say, well, can Pete win? Well, he'll be 39. Our 2 youngest presidents were, let me see,
41 and 42.
Teddy Roosevelt at 43 and John Kennedy at 43. Both of them turned out pretty well. And not to mention James Madison and Thomas Jefferson. But Pete makes the wonderful case. Says every time in my life, I'm the oldest one here, I'll look around. Every time in my life that Democrats have nominated the inside candidate. Let's start with Adlai Stevenson, Hubert Humphrey, Walter Mondale, Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry. We have lost every single time. And when we have gone outside to somebody who's young, exciting, full of inspiration, a transformational candidate like John Kennedy, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, we have won. So we've got to go towards Pete because Pete is that transformational candidate who can take us forward. I also, I live in one of the most divided bodies of the country, right? The Democrats and Republicans of the U.S. House. We have Adam Schiff and Jim Jordan. We have Nancy Pelosi and Mark Meadows. And yet, of all the candidates running, Pete is the one who presents himself most plausibly, most likely as the uniter for our country. He does that actively. I mean, if you haven't read his mental health plan, and mental health affects every American family. I've had enormous experience with it. My own family, it's a beautiful, well thought out plan to deal with the challenge that we all face. You look at his plan on rural economic development. Every rural county in America is red right now, but he doesn't ignore them. He says, here's how we're going to lift you up and bring you back in. And as we seem as Democrats to have given away the idea of a connection to our faith. Republicans go to church, Democrats don't. In the simplest way we are characterized by the Republicans. Pete gives us a chance again to say it is our values and our faith that inspires the work that we do. I have compared him many times to Mozart and Einstein, where it's not possible to know as much as he knows at his age. He's just so far ahead. And we're very, very lucky to have him. So I've been talking to all my pals in Congress to get them to sign up for Pete. And virtually everyone I talk to says, I'm not there yet, but he's clearly the smartest to be the best. And we're going to get a tidal wave coming on board, starting in Iowa, New Hampshire, and then fulfilled in Virginia. Remember, America was born on a farm in Virginia, and we can make this Pete Buttigieg candidacy come alive today. Finally, thanks for being here today. Mary Ruttrick, my ace political advisor, said it's worth 5 points to be first on the ballot. Today, you are making him first on the ballot. So thank you for doing that. And let's walk over and hand in those 12,000 petitions.
Thank you.